Souls never seen daylight, moonlight, or funny big gas. Here's one. That's just one of all egg quick.
Growing up in London, me and my mates used to hear our parents talking about the good old days. We asked ourselves, what was so good about them?
There's a crack up in the ceiling, and the kitchen sink is leaking. Out of work and got no money, a Sunday joint of bread and honey. What are we living for? Two-room apartment on the second floor. No money coming in. The rent collector's not trying to get in.
There was depression, unemployment, World War II, the Blitz, and even when it was all over, food was rationed.
The companies were always looked upon kindly in England, but in the way you look kindly upon Mickey Mouse or puppets, you know.
Yeah.
They say, oh, aren't they nice? Aren't they clever? You know, as though they've wound you up and you do something. Well, along came a generation of which I'm probably about the oldest. I feel like a grandfather with most of them. I'm 33. And we decided that we weren't going to be Mickey Mouse anymore. At least we'd be people, you know, and whether they liked it or not. And that's what we did.
Dirty old river, must you keep rolling, rolling into the night? People so busy, make me feel dizzy. Taxi lights shine so bright, but I don't need no friend. As long as I gaze on Waterloo sunset, I am in paradise.
For the first time in British history, the young working class, people like me, stood up for ourselves and said, we are here, this is our society, and we are not going away. What was it all about? I'm going to show you.
People try to put us to down, talking about my generation, just because we get around. Talking about my generation, things they do look awful. Talking about my generation, I hope I die before I get old. Take my generation, take my generation, baby. Why don't you all fade away? Don't try to dig what we all say. I'm not trying to cause a big sensation. My generation, baby. Try to put us to down. My generation, just because we could get around. My generation.
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. Britain in the 1950s was stable, conventional, predictable, and dull. But that's the way our parents liked it. My generation demanded a new beginning.
Call out the instigators, because there's something in the air. We got to get together sooner
I was born Morris Joseph Micklewhite. My mother was a child lady, cleaner.
Morris Micklewhite, are you?
Yes, I am.
No. Oh my God, aren't you like your father?
Because I didn't think anybody would be left down here.
Your mother and I were very good friends.
Yes, you were.
And your dear old father.
Yes.
The times we used to pick up old Mrs. Faulkner.
Yeah.
You remember those
Yeah, I
times,
remember.
don't you, boy?
As an English child grows, he becomes aware he has already been assigned a place in a large game, a system as intricate and elaborate as a maze of tradition, outmoded rules about who should succeed in the eyes of the establishment.
Discipline is indispensable to a progressive and mature society. Given discipline in the home and school, in college and at the workbench, the foundations for happiness are well established.
Part of the city where the sun refused to shine. People tell me there ain't no use in trying. Now, my girl, you're so young and pretty, and one thing I know is true. If you're dead before your time is due, I know. Watch my daddy in bed at times.
My dad was just an East End lad. My mum wanted something better for us.
He's been working and slaving his life away. Oh, yes, I know.
My dad was a very talented musician, but he had to go out and work,
He's been working so hard.
as I'm sure your parents did.
They did,
So
yeah.
all his dreams about becoming a musician went out the window.
We gotta get out of this place. If it's the last thing we ever do, we gotta get out of this place. Girl, there's a better life for me and you. Believe me, baby. I know it, baby. You know it too.
As a kid, me and my friends spent as much time as possible in the cinema. But the films we saw had nothing to do with our lives. No heroes we could relate to. From the way they talked, I thought all the actors were dukes and duchesses.
Pure satin.
Satin. Lace, actually.
No, Major. I meant your voice.
I'm so desperately in love with you.
Well, you really think you are?
I can't eat or sleep for thinking of
No,
you.
Mr. Gore Brown, my
How do you
new
do?
boss.
How do you do?
Sir Henry Hazelrigg,
How do you do?
Major
How do you
Darcy
do?
Davenport.
Oh, welcome to the toughest way of earning a living in this so-called civilized world, Mr. Gore Brown.
Not that my East End mates would go and see Brief Encounter, but for some reason, I saw it. It was a love story about a middle-aged couple, and it was funny.
I love you.
I love you.
You love me too.
I love you too.
Yes. I don't want to pretend anything either to you or to anyone else.
What did she say? And the other one says, she says I love you. Shut up.
I look down on him because I am upper class. I look up to him because he is upper class. But I look down on him because he is lower class. I am middle class. I know my place.
We were supposed to respect our betters, the knobs, the toffs, the people who had all the power. The establishment, as we knew them.
The changing of the guard is part of our tradition, but now we find it's been applied to us.
We're all brought up to be servants. I mean, we were never going to be the masters.
And no one can afford a chauffeur doing roads. If we ever get invited to the palace, then we'll all go there by bus.
Lady Lewisham, what do you think about our teenagers?
I think they're splendid. And I'm delighted you asked me that question, because I sometimes think they get rather a raw deal.
This was the first generation that had the potential to make a mark of its own.
But the older generation still clung to the days when Britain ruled over half the civilized world.
We will rise like lions and get our empire back. The bloody great British Empire that your bloody Labour rubbish give away to the people it belonged to.
Whether we like it or not, the wind of change is blowing through this country.
We don't need generals anymore. Isn't the war going on?
I wasn't prepared to follow any of the principles, morals, outlooks on life of what I laughingly call my betters, and which is what I was actually taught at school. I was taught all about my betters.
I never understood who my betters were supposed to be. I've never seen any of my betters. I've seen a lot of my equals, but I've still never seen any of my betters.
For my generation, the Labour government coming in 45,
Yeah.
the health service,
Yeah,
the change of diet, the change of healthcare,
yeah.
and good education for everybody. I think that set the 60s up. I mean, you got a very good education too.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't have to pay for education.
I loved it, and I was very glad to go to a grammar school.
I did.
Did you? Grammar school
Grammar
boys.
school.
Come on,
Yeah.
give it up for grammar school.
Yeah.
Well, I always say to people, you know, I got this real posh education for nothing.
I always wanted to be an actress. My father said, no, you can't be an actress. It's terrible. It's a terrible profession. And I want you to go to a secretarial school and find a good man, get married and have a nice life.
There was this kind of science teacher when I was about 12. He showed me how to develop film. So I used to go down my mum's cellar. I used to nick the chemicals from school and process film from my mother's brownie to see if I could photograph birds.
Birds?
Oh, it's quite interesting in ornithology.
Oh, I thought, sorry, I mistook
No.
that. Okay, I get it now. Yeah.
When I saw Elvis, it did something to me. And it wasn't just the song, and it wasn't just the fact that, you know, everybody was talking about it, but there was something animalistic. For the first time in my life, I'd seen someone that was free, completely and utterly free. And I thought, oh, I've got to do that. I've got to be. That's what I want to do.
Well, the bombs tears keep flowing. The desk clerk's dressed in black.
I wanted to be an actor from the age of 10, but I mean, people with my accent and background hardly ever became actors. But I was in a school play, and when I came on, I immediately got a laugh because my flies were undone. But I was hooked.
But, you know, when he was working, he was always miles away, you know, dreaming what he was going to be and what he wasn't going to be. And we used to think it was a bit,
We used to think it was a nutcase, didn't we? Let's face it.
Well,
To be honest, I was happy just to make a few quid being an actor in repertory. Playing in drafty theatres, living in drafty rooms. I never thought that I would be famous. Ever.
Now one man and his ale. What he wants is Watney's. What he wants is
Watney's pale.
What we want is Watney's.
But you've got a long way to go. Don't become too good too early.
So I was in rep doing the play up in Liverpool, and we used to go out and have coffee and sandwiches at lunchtime at this coffee bar. And it was always smothered in girls.
That's going to get you down there.
Yeah.
That was us, yeah.
Some of the guy now, they're taking my love away from me. Oh, now, some of the guy now, they're taking my love just like a pop now. Some of the guy now, they're taking my love away from me. Oh, now, I'm the only one, the only type of being alright.
To get in, you had to kind of bluff a bit. It was officially a blues club.
Yeah.
We didn't know any blues. It was all rock and roll,
Yeah,
we knew.
sure.
We were getting notes from the guy, this is not blues. Anyway, we bluffed it.
I mean, I had my guitar, and Mick Jagger had his in London, and
Eric Burden was up in Newcastle, and we were all going through the same changes at once. And you could make it without college and education and all those things, you know.
Being very poor, there's no way I was going to be able to buy a guitar.
Yeah, how do you start? But you've got to get musical instruments.
Yeah, so I went out and bought some wood, like so many of our guys did. We all went out and made our first guitars.
Made them?
We made them, yeah, we made them. And they weren't very good, and they didn't last very long. But all you needed to do was to have something that made a noise.
Really?
And if you learnt 3 chords, you can play many, many songs.
And after they learned those 3 chords, most kids headed for London. It's where everybody who wanted to be somebody wanted to be. You might be out of work, you might be broke, but it was cheap, and you lived within 2 miles of Buckingham Palace.
Oh, that was a great time. We all used to just go around London in our cars and meet each other and talk about music. And we were very close to the Stones. I spent a lot of time with Brian and Mick, and I admired them, you know. I dug them the first time I saw them in Richmond.
And you know, we wrote their first number 1.
Wait a minute, what one was that?
So one day, me and John were in Charing Cross Road, because that was where all the guitar shops were.
That, yeah.
And we used to go down, that was like our mecca.
Yeah.
And we were coming out of a shop one day, and we saw this taxi with Rolling Stones, and he go, hey! So we got in, and we're talking, and they said, yeah, we've got a record contract, Decca, you know. Great. And Mick said, trouble is we haven't got a song. And I go, yeah. I go, well, we've got one. I said, that'll suit you, great. Well, I want to be your lover, baby. I want to be your man. I want to be your lover, baby. I want to be your man. Tell me that you love me, baby. Tell me you understand.
I thought the Stones wrote that one themselves. No, we wrote that when we were so high.
I want to be your man. How do you compare your group with the Beatles?
I don't know. How do you compare it with the Beatles? I don't compare it at all. There's no point.
Well, let's get right down to brass tacks. Do you think you're better than they are?
What? You know, it's not the same group.
It was part of a movement, because while we were still up in Liverpool, we were seeing people like you, Albert Finney, Courtney, who were ordinary working class boys who talk with regional accents.
I've only clocked you, that's all. You're crafty Arthur from the basin.
You shouldn't worry too much, sir. We can always shut down a reactor.
Yes.
Pity if we had to, though.
Don't let the bastards grind you down. That's one thing I've learned.
Ordinary lads, you know, and they were now making it. You were expected to sort of talk posh, and we didn't or couldn't and didn't want to.
My real name was Maurice Micklewhite, which is a bit of a mouthful for an actor, so I changed it to Michael White. Then I came to London, and every night I used to go to Leicester Square in a phone booth and call my agent to see if there was any work. And one night she said, I've got a job for you. It's on television. She said, and you've got to join Equity to trade unions. So I said, okay, I'll join it. She said, but you've got to change your name. She said, because there's another Michael White already in Equity. So I want the name now. She said, obviously you can keep the name Michael, but I want another surname. So I looked around Leicester Square at the cinemas, and there was my favourite actor, Humphrey Bogart, in the Caine Mutiny. And I thought, this is fantastic. So I said, Michael Caine. She said, how do you spell it? I said, C-A-I-N-E. And that's how I became Michael Caine. If I'd have gone to the cinema next door, I would have been Michael 101 Dalmatians.
Music of this country was very watery and weak and not really worth talking about. Then all of a sudden, you know, the kids in England were thinking for themselves, you know. They were beginning to sort of build up their own ideas about fashion and build up their own ideas about music.
Satisfaction, 'cause I try
I really don't care whether they think we're a load of yobs or not. It doesn't worry me, because maybe I am. I don't really care. I'm just what I am.
Slaughtering a beast. The thing used to howl, it used to scream. It was doing all kinds of noises that we could only do by smashing it. We were living through that period of the Cold War where we were at the Cuban crisis. Yep. We had 3 minutes to live. You just did everything now.
No satisfaction. No satisfaction.
20 years ago, it was music, it was melody, you wanted to dance to it.
This is London calling the British Empire.
This is the BBC Live program. Here is the 10 o'clock.
Ladies and gentlemen, workers' playtime.
BBC Home and Forces program. Here is the news.
When I was a kid, the bloke who read the news on the BBC, he wore an evening suit. And that was on the radio. And that attitude still existed among the stiffs who ran the place. They didn't want us to be exposed to the evils of the pop music of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Who. But whenever the old guard told us what we couldn't do, we always found a way to do it.
This is Radio Caroline, 3.5 miles off the coast of Britain. The last free radio station in the world.
Good morning, this is Radio Caroline broadcasting on 259 meters in the medium wave. And welcome to the show. You're with the Admiral Robbie Dale through until 9 this evening. Remember, of course, it's 259.
Broadcasting ultimately is responsible to the government, the representative of the government. Now, these people are not. They are a law unto themselves. They are, in fact, pirates. The word is a correct one. They are pirates. They are, in fact, outlaws.
The new animal comes into a group of animals that are already together. The other animals will attack it because they don't know it and they're afraid of it.
Pirates are a menace, and I don't believe at all that the public wouldn't support action to enforce the law.
We broadcast 24 hours a day to Britain, France, Holland, many other European countries. We fight for freedom, and we will fight until we are physically put down.
The old rule book was being torn up and thrown away. It was happening in my profession too. I was up for a big film to play a Cockney corporal. And I had to go to the audition, and I didn't have a phone at that time. And when I got to the audition, the director said, "I'm terribly sorry." He said, "We couldn't get in touch with you. We've cast that part already." You know, so I was turned down, but I've been turned down so many times it didn't matter. And the room was very long, which was fortunate for my movie career, because by the time I got to the door, the director said, "Come back a minute, come here." Now, I was very slim, 6'2", blonde, long blonde hair. he said, you sort of look like an officer type, you know? So I said, thank you. He said, can you do a posh accent? I said, I have been in rep for 9 years. I can do any accent you want.
I was very nervous, I remember. I remember Cy Enfield, when he did the first take, said, cut halfway through, the very first take, and he said, Michael, he said, your voice has gone up about 3 octaves. And my voice was up here with nerves, and they could hardly record it. And we had to start again, and then I brought my voice down. But what had happened was everybody had come out because they were sure this Cockney couldn't speak like that.
Who said you could use my men?
They were sitting around on their backsides doing nothing.
Rather you asked first, old boy.
That's how I got a starring role in a movie for the first time. The thing is, if that director hadn't been an American, but had been a British director, through no malice or no fault of his own, he would never have cast this Cockney boy as an officer. Not in a million years. That's how strong the class system was in England back then.
Suddenly, people realised that the working class wasn't as thick as it looked, and it had talent. There was very talented people. It was a revolution.
And I don't agree with anything that they do.
Young people are like they are because our society is throwing up this sort of problem.
I think the whole thing is full of unfresh rubbish.
I just thought there was more of us than there was of them.
You know, that never occurred to me.
But it seems to me that a good time is much easier had by you all now than ever before.
Any one thing that's preached by our people in particular is that you do what you want to do, when you want. This isn't the first generation that's questioned the moral values of the last generation.
You know, on recent trips to London, you don't see any people older than 25 or 30. It's as though they locked them up somewhere.
Yeah, I think they've all moved out and left it to the teenagers. Because London, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I can see, it's all young people the whole time now.
Taste no longer comes down from the rich. It often rises from the young, many of them from the working classes. They now seem the pace setters. They set the taste.
In fact, the whole strength of this came from the young themselves. They knew what they wanted. They didn't want to imitate sort of Countess Bigglesade. You know, they had their own ideas.
I looked at the cover of Time magazine and I read this article just talking about what was going on in London, the nightclubs, the restaurants, the clothes, and I thought, how do I get to London, you know, like tomorrow?
You know, when people say the Beatles made swing in the 60s, they didn't. London made the Beatles.
Never before had so many young people lived away from home. Their parents began to worry about them. If their kids went to art school, they would have worried even more. I don't know whether they learned anything about painting, but they certainly had the prettiest girls and the best parties. The pop art scene began to transform the face of London.
People said it's a dull grey world, or everything's black and white post-war. Even though people said that, it was literally true. Everything was dull and grey, you know, and we wanted colour. We wanted to introduce colour into London. If we could have had coloured concrete, coloured cement, we'd have used it.
The world of pop art, the world of the popular imagination, the world of film stars, the twist.
Art schools were the centre of everything. They provoked so much excitement and interest.
And we didn't even know you could have art students.
It was wonderful thinking you can use anything. Paintings based on a packet of tea, just because the packets of tea were there. And I used to write on the paintings, and I a lot of graffiti. Some of it I remember finding in the toilets in Earl's Court tube station.
I often take the moment before something has actually happened, and you don't know if it's going to be terrible or it might be very funny.
The sort of stuff that I'm doing is absolute ephemera. It's I do it today and I want to forget about it by midnight, and I'm on something else. And this is how I see, you know, if anything is pop, it's pop for the minute.
It's much easier for a girl to drift into trouble in London. The streets themselves, it's true, are clear, but there are more temptations. It's more easy for anybody who wants to exploit a girl to sweep her underground.
I just happened to be there, that's all. That's a Bob Dylan line.
They said, would you like to come to a party in London? And I said, oh, I've never been to a party in London.
Pretty girl with a lot of very pretty friends.
Yeah.
My friends were gorgeous, you know.
Yes.
We all went to this convent. We were fabulous looking. And my God, the role model was the Virgin Mary.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what made convent girls so sexy.
And hard to get. Yeah.
Don't know about that.
The Rolling Stones were there, and Millie, and the Crystals, and all these people. And I was looking very shabby. Very, very, so shabby, it was awful. I stood there. And then people started whispering and sort of saying, you know, being very embarrassing for me. And they came up and said to the person I was with, and can she sing?
Andrew Oldham, you were the person who discovered Marianne Faithfull at that party. Is it literally possible to go to a party, pick out someone with no evident talent, and make a star of her?
Yes.
How?
I think the first thing is you have to be drunk.
He had an instinct, I
Yes,
think. That's
yeah.
what Andrew... I was very good at that.
And he guided you through.
He guided me through nothing.
Really?
He knew whatever it was I had, he could market it. He just saw what he always called a commercial face.
Which you did, yeah. I mean, you were so
If
pretty.
you can see that perspective.
Yeah.
I can't see it myself.
Take my word for it.
Okay. I fell in love with Mick. Mick was young, rich, and a rock star. Bailey the same. And
Yeah.
probably you had your moments too, though you took your work very seriously.
I did indeed.
It was a whole team of very, very naughty boys. Really.
Yeah, well,
Very naughty.
we couldn't help it. Where I grew up, it was a bit like Sicily in terms of morals and sex. If you kissed a girl, her brothers would come round with a shotgun and say, you've got to get married. Well, all that went out of the window.
Women also were something of voyeurs. They also liked the look of men. Given the pill, it was the only contraceptive that actually worked. A woman could then really be in charge of her own life.
It's smaller than an aspirin tablet, and it is commonly and widely called the pill.
A revolution is on the way. All over the country, young girls are sprouting, shouting and shaking. And if they terrify you, they mean to.
I wanted to run and jump and dance and go on at night straight away to a nightclub and dance.
A friend of mine said he was going to take me to the best disco in the whole world. It was at the top of a very high building just behind Leicester Square, in a club called the Ad Lib. And I'm looking round to see what sort of people we've got here. On the dance floor, every single Rolling Stone and every single Beatle. And I thought, boy, this must be the place.
I met Albert Finney, I met Michael Caine, I met Sean Connery.
Stevie Winwood or Jimi Hendrix or Brian Jones.
John Lennon was there, met Julie Christie there.
That was insane.
And they were all mates, weren't they?
Yeah.
It was all mates. I taught Nureyev how to twist at the ad lib. Yeah. He was very stiff. I mean, he could do all that Swan Lake shit, but he couldn't do the twist.
We didn't have cell phones in those days. We didn't text each other. We talked to each other face to face. And that's what bred creativity, because people could meet each other and exchange ideas. And anyone with talent could be a part of it.
Called Bizarre. It just hit the spot from the first day.
That about sums her up.
Oh, well, the fabrics are made flat, and women are round, and there's this terrible problem of putting the two together, you know, which is why I want to make round clothes with no seams, so that we can be rounder and smoother than we are.
The whole young London thing was happening in a big way, and I was working with Mary Quant, and she was working with us. I was doing her show, she was doing ours, and we were developing this whole thing, in a sense, together.
I was walking down one street, and there was this stunning photograph of a girl with her hair cut short, and it said Vida soon. I went up the steps, and right at the top, there was a kind of kitchen. Vidal was cutting hair.
Cuts. Great noise, that scissor.
And he was chopping hair, and it was flying everywhere. You know? And he was such a show-off, if you remember.
I know him well, yeah.
Do you remember when we were open 1 week in 108?
Right.
And in those days, when we first opened, we used to write our name in script because we thought it was very chic and it was going to look marvelous, you know. And the postman, you couldn't tell whether the F's were L's or S's. You couldn't tell what they were. Do you remember this,
That's
Bob?
right.
The postman came up with the first letter, and he walked up 3 flights of stairs, and he opened the door, and in broad Cockney, he looked around and said, "Here, which one of you lot's Fifth Alpha food?"
The geometric angle style of hairdressing.
It was cut almost like a fabric, and it was treated like a texture, and it was free and alive. And so he did the hair, and you know, I did the other pieces.
Feel when I dance with you, we move like the sea. You're all I want to know. I feel free. I feel free. I feel free. I can walk down the street, there's no one there. Though the pavement's a one huge crowd. I can drive down the road, my eyes don't see, but my mind wants to cry out loud.
Very often, when somebody's had one of our haircuts, they come back again, and in 2 weeks' time, you're going to change their shoes. Their skirts a little shorter, and within 6 months, their whole look has changed.
I think the point of clothes for women should be, 1, that you're noticed, 2, that you look sexy, and 3, that you feel good. I can't see that we wear them to keep warm.
Dance floor is like the sea. Ceiling is the sky. You're the sun, and as you shine on me, I feel free. I feel free.
It's all got to stop. They've had enough. The worms are turning. The rebellion of the long hairs is getting underway.
We've had comments like "darling" and "can I carry a handbag" thrown at us. I think it's just had to stop now.
I don't like men with long hair or curlers. I like them normal.
Well, I find it terribly difficult with some of these long-haired young men to differentiate between the sexes, and this could be a matter of considerable inconvenience.
I think they're absolutely atrocious. I like men to look like men. Why not for a man? Why not? Why not for a man?
If the colours go together.
Why not for a man? Any colours go together. That's beautiful. What's wrong with that?
Our parents didn't have much sex before marriage. A lot of them didn't have a lot of sex after marriage. And by the time they made a bit of money, it was too late to enjoy it. It can't have been easy for them to see us having so much more fun than they ever thought possible.
David, you up there?
Nice. Good girl. Good. That's good. Hold it. Good. Good. Make that. Let me. No, David, who told you to move? Go back to where you were. Come on. Back to where you were. Good. And that. Flipping hand. Yeah. Good. There. That's good. Let's do like that.
I was very much influenced also by the photographers at the time, the new, I suppose, typically young Cockney photographers that were happening and were our great friends. And I'm sure we sort of bounced ideas off each other.
It's the easiest thing in the world to be a photographer. All you have to be is a bit rude, grow your hair long and wear a leather jacket and buy a Pentax and you're a photographer because there's no union.
The winsome David Bailey.
Hang around, this is marvellous. Good. Open your mouth slightly. Good.
David was famous for a saying, David Bailey makes love daily. He wore vest, jeans, Cuban heels, and had a cheese sandwich for lunch. And he photographed the most beautiful women in the world. Lucky bugger.
Bailey was extremely attractive, and every woman in the world seemed to want to have a little bit of him. Well, a particular bit of him.
Just stand with your legs apart and face me.
He came to New York to collect me, to take me to London. Completely fell in love with him within about 5 minutes. It was pathetic. He sort of rang the doorbell in my house. My mother came to the door, and as soon as she saw it was Bailey, she tried to slam the door in his face. He said, "Don't worry about it, love. It could have been worse. It could have been a Rolling Stone." That was it. I grabbed my suitcase and I was gone.
Stay like that, and bring this slowly. Bring this hand down, more, and put it there. Go on. No, lower down on your thigh, whatever it's called. Good. That's good. And look at me like that. Don't twist away. Just keep where you are. Good. There. That's lovely. Good, Angel. Yeah. And it's nearly right if that hand was nicer.
To the public, the camera doesn't lie. And therefore, the best photographer is the biggest liar. There certainly is a school of English photographers. I call them the Black Trinity of Duffy, Donovan, and Bailey.
Keep your legs, swing your arms away from your body. Move your legs out. No, you've moved, come up.
And what one's trying to do is to try and make her look beautiful. If you don't do that, then you lose out. And she loses out, and then it's a bore. I think there is an actual pleasure in making someone look beautiful.
Duffy's great to work with because he's... You go in there and sort of 3 hours later, when you've finished all the bottles of wine that are lying around, you know, they sort of talked about everything, listened to 100 records of old war songs. Somebody arrives with a sort of handful of clothes, you know. Out come all the paper flowers. And he's standing there with the camera, and you have to go on talking. He makes you sing, you know. He won't take the shot, and he gets bullshit. Not taking the picture unless you sing. Go on, sing. So you have to sing, stand there singing in the studio. It's great. It's all the pictures of sort of dodgy birds with teeth showing, but they're natural.
Girl, you really got me going. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, you really got me now. You got me so I can't sleep at night.
attractive. Doesn't matter what they're wearing. It's only packaging. It's like wrapping up soap or something. It's not any more complicated than that. It's nicely wrapped. You look. If it's not, you don't bother.
Don't ever set me free. I always wanna be by your side. Girl, you really got me now. You got me so I can't sleep at night. Yeah, you really got me now. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing now. Oh yeah, you really got me now. You got me so I can't sleep at night. You really got me. You really got me. You really got me.
An ideal woman, well, that's sort of difficult because I think every woman's sort of my ideal woman. I mean, they're all lovely. Some are just lovelier than others.
Which brings us to Jane Shrimpton.
Yeah.
Well, no one told me about her, the way she lied. Well, no one told me about her, how many people cried.
Past the studio, and there was Duffy photographing this girl. He put up a blue background, sky blue background. She had these incredible blue eyes.
Well, no one told me about her. What could I do?
When I looked at her, I could see through to the background. And I said, who's that? He said, oh, it's just a girl I booked. He said, do you like her? I said, yeah. He said, oh, she's too posh for you, mate. I said, oh, we'll see about that.
You're probably right.
So I booked her, and then I sort of fell in love with her, really.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah.
Being with him is an influence, you know, and then he began to influence my movement and my dress. And then when he'd get around the set, yeah, he'd put me into shape, you know, and he'd encourage certain expressions. Then I began to feel something inside which I didn't know existed.
I photographed her every day for about 3 years.
Well, let me tell you about the way she looked, the way she acted, the color of her hair. Her voice was soft and cool, her eyes were clear and bright, but she's not there.
Vogue wouldn't publish the pictures in the beginning.
Well, of people?
Of my pictures, yeah. They
yeah.
always wanted a tree in the background or a
Yeah.
armchair or... If I got Jane Shrimpton, why do I want a palm tree in the background? There was even models in the 60s Vogue wouldn't use because they said, oh, can't possibly use her if you listen to her accent.
But she'll go on until the fashions change, or else some other star will suddenly come along and take her place.
But you were the first, obviously, Cockney young lady to become a model.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard you talk. I mean, mostly you didn't hear models speak, you know, but then you did. I mean, there was a whole personality.
And they've
cult
never
with
shut
you.
me up.
I was at school and I wanted to be a model, you know, and because I was thin and that, and people said you ought to try it, and I thought it was be, you know, very glamorous and all lovely clothes and very easy, you know, not much to do and lots of money, but it's not really. I mean, it's very hard work. If you go out on location in the winter in a bathing suit or a little summer dress, it's blooming freezing.
Bit more, that, perfect, marvellous.
Twiggy's success was phenomenal. It went far beyond just being a model. In less than a year, her name, her look, her brand had conquered the world.
Do you feel out of place as a success because you started from ordinary working class beginnings?
No, why should I? And the Beatles broke down the barrier, you know, the class barrier and all that. I don't think it really matters what class of family you come from. If you're good enough in your job, you know, you make it anyway.
She's happened because of all that rubbish about swinging London. Yeah, I think she's a lovely model. Super. I mean, she's money in the bank photographer.
It's a hard world to get a break in. All the good things have been taken. But girl, there are ways to make certain things pay. Though I'm dressed in these rags, I'll wear sable someday.
What are your views on serious matters?
What?
Well, I don't know. Who's your favorite philosopher?
I haven't got one, I don't know any. Who's yours?
Oh, I like them all.
Who?
All your basic philosophers.
Who?
Just all of them.
I don't know their names, though. What are their names?
Oh, see, there's a host of them. You...
It's my life and I do what I want. It's my mind and I think what I want. Show me I'm wrong.
England, where it all began. Real good. Portland Street is the headquarters of Twiggy Enterprises.
Shorter time as 6 weeks ago, we were here selling coats. And here you are, you see Twiggy. Something that's being produced in its tens and tens of thousands. Just too fantastic an operation. Don't you think?
Have you seen all the places we've sold to? We've got one in Hong Kong.
Today, these youngsters have got a know-how. You know? And that's something that you can't take away from them.
Here come the nights, looking so good. He makes me feel like no one else could.
I used to save my pocket money up, and every Saturday we'd run down the road and we'd buy something at Beaver because it was just like amazing.
Here come the nights, understood. Here come the nights. It makes me feel good. I be just like you. If I only could.
Anybody over 30 would never dare go in there. They used to just stay outside. And if clothes were being done for girls, it was done by a woman. Excuse me. It wasn't done by a whole load of men in suits. As a tourist attraction, we were number 2 after the Tower of London, and Buckingham Palace was number 3. I think that's terribly funny, isn't it?
I told you before to be careful where you put your legs.
I was only trying to be helpful.
I can help myself. Hello? They never make these cars big enough, do they? Well, you all settled in? Right, we can begin. My name is...
Alfie?
When I became an actor, I didn't see myself like playing Hamlet or King Lear. All I wanted was a chance to get a true Cockney character on the big screen. And I got that chance to do it.
There is a little bit of Alfie in everybody, and people saw things in themselves, even if it was something they didn't like. I found a lot of things in Alfie, especially as, say, I am a bachelor.
How do you want me?
How do I want you? Well, I've got 2 positions, straight up or sideways, depending on your nationality. I'll tell you what, I'll have you against the ships.
All right, I've always been partial to the Navy.
You look a real treat there, you do. But you see, of course, you can't play Alfie and be Alfie at the same time, because playing those parts, it takes up too much of your time. You have to go to bed early. I don't think I went out with one girl the whole time I was making Alfie. I did when I was finished. We used to call girls, I know it's very male chauvinist, and I'm sorry, ladies, I don't do it anymore. We used to call girls birds, or in rhyming slang, Richards, which is Richard III's birds. Coffee, love. And my flatmate was very much a ladies' man. He had all the Richards, so our flat became like an airport. The birds came flying through there, and I became a sort of flight controller, bringing them in and getting them out safely, and so no one saw each other and all that.
I was living with my then girlfriend, Jane Asher.
Who I made Alfie, and I met you on the set, because you used to come on the set for lunch.
You did Alfie with her, yeah. And so I was staying at Jane's and going out with her. I had a piano. I was living up at the top of the house, and I had a little piano in there. So John might write one on his own, I might write one on our own, so that started to happen. But we'd always bring it back to each other and finish it together.
We thought, after following Buddy Holly records and seeing how they were made through playing them, you know, oh, maybe we can write this, you know? Well, maybe instead of singing Going Back to Alabama, we can sing something about Liverpool, you know? So it was just after we'd learned, you know, oh, you do this and how to make the music, we thought, oh, we'll write about ourselves, you know? And of course, the first efforts were more dumb or childish than the later efforts.
We'd sit down to write, and I think we wrote just short of 300 songs together over the period. And whenever we had a writing session, we always come up with these songs every time. We never left the session going, we'll finish it tomorrow.
All these songs just came out of me, you know. I didn't sit down to think I'm going to write about this, that, or the other. They all came out, you know, like all the best work of anybody's ever does, you know.
No sense of competition or anything?
Oh, no, there was a big sense of competition.
There was.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Come on. Young guys.
Yeah.
Both writers. No, it was great. It was really good for us. And, you know, John would say later, he said, bloody hell, you know, he'd hear one of my songs, bloody hell, I've got to write a better one. It was like a nuisance. Yes. And then I'd hear one of his, I'd go, oh, bollocks. A taxi driver the other day had some sheet music of a Mozart thing. And I said, what's that, you know? And he said, oh, that's the high-class stuff. You won't like that. He said, no, you won't like that. And I said, well, what is it, you know? He said, oh, no, you won't like it. You know, it's high-class, that. It's very high-class, highbrow. And that kind of way, I always used to think of it. I used to think, well, you know, that's very clever, all that stuff. And it isn't, you know, it's just exactly what's going on in pop at the moment. Pop music is the classical music of now.
All of a sudden, there was a bunch of people in London who were considered the most interesting and glamorous people on the planet. And when people became famous in Britain, they had one thought in mind: America. And they took the party across the pond. And the British invasion didn't just include bands, it was writers, designers, artists, actors like myself.
Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields. Nothing is real, nothing to get hung about. Strawberry Fields forever. Living is easy with eyes closed. Misunderstanding all you see. It's getting hard to be someone, but it all works out. It doesn't matter much to me. Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields. Nothing is real, and nothing to get hung about. Strawberry Fields forever.
The people that started the English invasion, the effect here in the United States, phenomenal.
No one I think is in my tree. I mean, it must be high or low. That is, you can't, you know, tune in, but it's all right. That is, I think it's not too bad. Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields. Nothing is real, and nothing to get hung about.
And now to be Cockney is right at the top, isn't it?
Yeah, it helps a little.
Yeah.
It's not doing me any harm in America.
Sometimes think it's me, but you know I know when it's a dream.
Michael Caine?
I think I know, I mean, yes, but it's all wrong. That is, I think I disagree. Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields. Nothing is real, and nothing to get hung about. Strawberry Fields forever. Strawberry Fields forever.
I don't know, you know, if you can say that war's no good and a few people believe you, then it may be good, I don't know. You can't say too much of that, that's the trouble.
It seems a bit silly to be in America and for none of them to mention Vietnam as if nothing was happening.
And the kids want to be free, man. Like, that's where it's ahead.
Oh, youth has always been quite exciting.
Well, it's certainly more exciting than it ever was before.
You can do anything and make it exciting.
Everything's constantly changing and attitudes are constantly changing.
Well, everything is happening. Everything is happening all over the world.
Right over there, the little girl running down, the famous model, just came in from Europe. What do you think of her? What do I think of her?
I think she's cute,
I think she's cute, except she's... It'll last... I don't know. It'll last a couple of weeks like everything else.
You think that our next generation is supposed to be taking care of this country. They don't take no pride in anything, hardly.
I think we have to find out who is to blame for it all.
And they look at me, and I happen to have long hair and wear kind of freaky clothes, and they really hate me. You can look, and you see this hatred.
I'll never smoke marijuana again. Honest. It was the mods who started it, you know, Purple Hearts, amphetamines, speed. But there was nothing new in that. People used to take them in the war to stay awake. But they used to take 1 or 2 tablets. The mods took them by the jarful.
All I really cared about in those days was the band being good. I started this band, and I couldn't take them. It used to dry me up. And so I couldn't sing. I thought, well, it's no good for me. I can't sing. There's no point in doing this. So I had to be straight. We played one gig. It was just so bad. The band had been up for 3 days, and I started taking more and more pills. The songs are getting faster and faster, so I can't get the words in. I mean, oh my God, it was so awful. I came off the stage in such a terrible temper.
I've been on pills since I was 15, since I was 17. Since I became a musician, the only way to survive in Hamburg, to play 8 hours a night, was to take pills. I've always needed a drug to survive. I can't, you know, and the others too, but I always had more, you know. I always took more pills and more of everything because I'm more crazy.
Do you rely on drugs to keep you going?
No, it just means that, you know, there are certain things which levels of perception which are opened up by certain drugs.
To many youngsters, the glamour drugs are those which produce hallucinations. Best known are marijuana and LSD.
Huxley wrote these 2 books. He wrote Heaven and Hell and Doors of Perception. And of the 2, people have taken heaven and hell as the symbol. And they've taken the wrong one, because the one, the really explicit phrase is doors of perception. And that is what drugs are. They are the doors. They're not anywhere.
We can't prevent them, but they're really fooling with dynamite.
Given us a world we can't handle as it is, so we're going to change it. Because they have shaped their world, our world, into what it is with guns and bombs. It's obvious to our generation that their way doesn't work, it hasn't worked, it isn't going to work. So a change has to be made, and if somebody has to get turned upside down to do it, well then.
The people who lived through the LSD experience went through a complete facet of learning, you know. And it's just, you know, it must have been done some other way when we thought I was a kid. Maybe they did it by going to war.
The kids who take LSD aren't going to fight your wars, middle-class, middle-aged, whiskey-drinking generals. They're not going to join your corporations, middle-class, middle-aged, whiskey-drinking corporation presidents.
You must leave now, take what you need, you think will last. But whatever you wish to keep, you better grab it fast. Yonder stands your orphan with his gun, crying like a fire in the sun. Look out, baby!
Calm down, sort these bastards out. Boy can roll out. Get him out. Bring him down the canal and drown him. Drown him. That's what you want to do now.
Baby,
communist bastard.
the highway is for gamblers. Better use your sense. Take what you have gathered from coincidence. The empty-handed painter from your streets is drawing.
I haven't got their morals, and they haven't got mine.
They've got all these rules for everything. Rules of how to live, how to paint, how to make music. And it's just not true anymore.
The government doesn't exist for us. They exist for themselves. Sooner or later, the government is going to find there's something going on that they've got no control over at all.
They haven't been fucked since Cromwell, man.
Youth thinks itself wise, just as drunk men think themselves sober. Youth knows nothing about anything except a mass of cliches.
The permissive society is considered by some youngsters to be trendy and with it. Personally, I consider it condones moral laxity and promiscuity. It leads to uncertainty and instability, a soggy mind and mental impoverishment, and contains all the disruptive elements which would tear down the pillars of our society.
It really is about time we realized that the fault lies in the fact that we have created a permissive society.
Now, the epidemic of drug taking in this country is now so extensive that many of you, whatever your jobs, would have come across it.
We must rid the country of this insidious disease of don't care.
And I was the first to be busted.
What do you know of this Donovan?
I've had him on the special attention list for some time.
Right.
That next day, when we were let out at 4 a.m, the phone rang and it was George Harrison, and he said, "Is everything all right?" I said, "Yeah, we're out." He said, "What you gonna do?" I said, "We're gonna go away for a while." He said, "If you want £10,000 by 12 noon. I said, "No, I'm okay with the money. We're gonna go to Scotland until it blows over." He said, "It'll never blow over, Don. We'll be next."
Paul, how often have you taken LSD?
About 4 times.
And where did you get it from?
Oh, you know, I mean, if I was to say where I got it from, you know, it's illegal and everything. It's silly to say that, so I'd rather not say that.
Don't you believe that this was a matter which you should have kept private?
I mean, you're spreading this now at this moment. This is going into all the homes, you know, in Britain. And I'd rather it didn't, you know. But you're asking me the question. You want me to be honest. I'll be honest, you know.
But as a public figure, surely you've got a responsibility to lots and
No,
lots
it's
of
you've got the
teenagers.
responsibility. You've got the responsibility not to spread this now. You know, I'm quite prepared to keep it as a very personal thing, if you will too.
What I do with things is I look at examples of people who do things. If it's good, if I saw somebody who took drugs, who became more intelligent, nicer, earned more money, more handsome, a better lover, or got a better physique through it, and he set a good example, I would be the first to take drugs and suggest everybody else should. But most of the people I know who've taken drugs over a period of time seem to have gone to wreck and ruin, and I don't want to go there.
I never wanted to talk about drugs in public because I don't want to influence anybody in anything. But if you ask me, I guess I have to say that of course I took drugs like everyone, but not because of everyone.
It came from the FBI to MI5 to
Really?
Yes, it's like one of your films, man.
It sounds like it.
You know, we say there were 300 people in the 60s, and all the people who said they were at the Redlands bust, we would have had to have a marquee on the lawn. It was basically a party where good friends got together to take a bit of LSD. That was one of my first trips. It was a pretty rough experience, actually.
Yeah.
To have 25 cops walk in.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, and I was rather naughty too. I'd gone to have a bath.
Yeah.
I was in a fur rug.
And nothing else?
And I dropped the fur rug and gave a flash at the constabulary. And they were so stunned, you know. I was showing off, wasn't I?
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
And why not? You were young, beautiful.
I was beautiful, I was naked, I was in a fur rug. Hey! And I was naughty and defiant.
Evidence that an unnamed naked woman was sitting on a sofa with a rug around her when police raided Keith Richards' house at West Wittering was given in court today.
First of all, they don't like young kids with a lot of money, you know, they don't like that anyway. But as long as you're sort of cool and do your, you know, and don't bother them, you know. But we bother them, you know, we bother them because of the way we look, because of the way we act, because we never showed any reverence for them whatsoever.
This is not Golden Gate Park or Central Park. This is Hyde Park in London. And these are British hippies gathered to protest the heavy sentences against two Rolling Stones. Mick Jagger for having 4 tablets of Benzedrine in his pocket, and Keith Richard for allowing his premises to be used for the smoking of marijuana.
And then I started getting poisonous letters, basically saying, the sooner you die, the better. You know, you're a contamination on our island shores. And I took all this very much to heart.
I saw her today at the reception. A glass of wine in her hand. I knew she was gonna meet her connection.
And I thought I would die, and I almost welcomed it, but I started to get into hard drugs, and that's what did it.
There was a feeling that something special was over. We'd pushed for change. Now change was pushing us. Maybe, for some of us, the party had gone on too long.
But if you try sometimes, well, you might find you get what you need.
We'd sort of done everything we'd wanted to do. We were getting a bit fed up with having to have a group mentality, so we were pissing each other off.
And I went down to demonstration to get my fair share of abuse. Singing we're gonna vent our frustration. If we don't, we're gonna blow a 50 amp fuse. Sing it to me, honey. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want.
Although it was a shock when it actually happened, nobody was really that surprised. Everybody knows people that you just have that feeling that they're not going to be 70 years old ever. Not everybody makes it.
Looking back, what strikes me most about the 60s is that it was a time, maybe the first time, when the future was shaped by young people. We were utterly convinced that it was our time, the best time of our lives. Youth is not a time of life, it's a state of mind.
Whoever they are, don't stand a chance because they can't beat love.
Never look back in anger, always look forward in hope. And never, ever, ever dream small.